I caught my mom cheating with my dad's best friend. What happened next will blow your mind. I never thought my life would change so dramatically in one morning. It was just another Saturday. The house was quiet, the sun was shining, and everything seemed normal. Little did I know, I was about to uncover a family secret that would shatter everything I thought I knew. I'm Jake, and I've always been close to my family. My dad, David, was the hardworking, dependable guy I could always count on. My mom, Angela, was loving, nurturing, and the heart of our home. And then there was John, my dad's best friend. He was like an uncle to me, always there for family dinners, holidays, and weekend trips. They were inseparable, but what I didn't know was that things weren't as perfect as they seemed. It all started that morning when I decided to take a run before I had to meet up with friends later. As I jogged past the living room, I noticed something strange. The front door was slightly ajar. My dad was supposed to be working, and my mom had gone to the grocery store. I thought nothing of it and figured I must have left it open by accident. But as I passed by, I heard voices. I stopped listening intently. I could hear my mom's voice clearly, but there was another voice too. A man's voice. My stomach dropped as I recognized who it was. It was John, my dad's best friend. Confused, I slowly edged closer to the door, my heart pounding in my chest. What were they doing in the house together? I thought my mom and John were just chatting, but as I peeked through the crack, my jaw hit the floor. John and my mom were standing close together, laughing, but it was more than that. I could see the way they were looking at each other. Too much chemistry, too much intimacy. It was wrong. I didn't know what to think. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to pretend I hadn't seen anything. But then, John moved closer to my mom, and before I could blink, he kissed her. It wasn't a quick kiss on the cheek or a casual greeting. It was passionate, everything I knew my mom never shared with my dad. I was in shock. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. This was my mom, the woman who raised me, the woman who I thought had a perfect marriage with my dad. How could she be doing this with John? How long had it been going on? I knew what I had to do. I couldn't keep this secret. I couldn't let my dad continue living in a lie. But my hands shook as I debated my next move. I could confront them, but what if they denied it? What if I was wrong? I couldn't afford to be wrong. But there was no turning back now. I grabbed my phone and called my dad. My voice was shaky when I spoke, but I managed to get the words out. Dad, you need to come home. Now, it's about Mom. Jake, what's going on? Is everything okay? His voice was concerned, and it broke my heart. No, it's not okay. Please, just come home, I said, my voice nearly cracking. I hung up and stood there, waiting for my dad to come back. I didn't know how much time passed. Maybe it was an hour, maybe longer. All I knew was that every second felt like an eternity. When my dad finally walked in, he could immediately tell something was off. I was standing there, looking like a deer caught in headlights, and my mom, who was standing awkwardly in the kitchen, seemed guilty. But I had to do it. I had to tell him. Dad, I started, my voice trembling. I saw Mom and John. Before I could even finish, my mom's face went pale. She opened her mouth to say something, but the words never came out. My dad turned to her, confusion spreading across his face. What are you talking about, Jake? He asked. I took a deep breath and walked toward them, pointing at the living room. I saw them, Dad. I saw Mom and John together, in a way they should never be. They were kissing. My mom's face went completely white. She tried to speak, but no words came out. My dad was frozen, staring at her with wide eyes. John's betrayal hit him like a ton of bricks. He walked past me and toward the living room, his expression unreadable. My mom's eyes welled up with tears, but my dad didn't even turn to her. He just stood there, fists clenched at his sides. You lied to me, Angela, my dad asked, his voice low and dangerous. His hands shook as he ran them through his hair. My mom couldn't answer. The guilt was written all over her face. My heart broke for my dad, but I also couldn't help but feel betrayed by her. After everything, how could she do this to him? To us? I could feel the tension in the air. The silence was suffocating. Then my dad turned to me, his face pale but determined. You need to leave. I can't deal with this right now, he said to my mom, voice barely above a whisper. His face was etched with disappointment. I need to think. My mom didn't protest. She grabbed her things and left. The house felt empty, even though I was standing there with my dad. The weight of everything was too much to bear. For weeks, things were tense. My mom didn't come home. My dad refused to speak to her, and he kept to himself. But one day I saw a different side of him. He was sitting at the kitchen table, and as I walked in, he looked up at me, eyes filled with sadness but also a glimmer of strength. I'm not going to let her destroy everything we've built, he said quietly. But I'll be okay, Jake. I have to be. The look in his eyes showed me that even in the darkest times, my dad wasn't giving up. Neither was I. And as for my mom and John, they were never part of our lives again. My dad and I moved on. We rebuilt our bond. And while things would never be the same, we found a new strength in the truth. The hardest part was knowing that some things, no matter how painful, are better left uncovered.